gosh. Yeah, I actually went through before I jumped on the podcast with you. I'm like, I'm gonna do a demo. So I sat there with my girlfriend. I'm like, please just make sure the mic works on the other end.
You're like, I don't want to have to do this a third time.
I know, I'm like, I will, but I don't want to.
I know. I 100% am.
We already told people we were gonna do it. So at this point, we don't have a choice. So
And the funny thing is too, well, I mean, like in a really good way, I
yeah,
had probably like 6 or 7 clients that were like, when is this podcast coming out? I need to listen
yeah.
to it right now. Like I want to listen to it on like my Sunday walk. I'm like, so you'll get it next week.
Yeah. Yeah. I said the same thing. Someone hit me up and they're like, yeah, I thought you had a few new people coming on this week. I'm like, I do. The first one just didn't work. So we're going to do it again. So
Exactly.
you'll get it next week.
But
So yeah,
hey,
for everybody. Yeah. So for everybody listening, Kelsey and I, we tried to do a podcast last week. It went really great. We'll do take 2 this week.
It's going to be even better, actually.
It'll be even better because we got practice.
We did.
And I think the thing is too, is, I've known Kelsey quite a while now. What I want to do today is kind of revisit some of the questions that we had from the take you guys aren't going to hear. And I think we'll be able to expand on it even further than we did the first time we talked.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. So if you're cool with that, I kind of want to go back to, I actually met Kelsey when I was a freshman at UWL in bio class. And so I've known her quite a while. But I think the last time that we had talked before we had redone this podcast was sometime around the time that you left UWL actually, and you were moving to Iowa, right, for chiropractic school.
Correct.
Can you share with the audience a little bit about that? So, you obviously start your college career at UWL, you move into chiropractic school. How did that look for you?
Yeah, great question. First off, though, I cannot believe that it was like 2018 when we met, or probably 2018, 2019, something like that. That's so long ago.
Yeah.
Like thinking that now. But so yeah, like Tyler said, I did my undergrad at UWL. I was an exercise science major, and that's kind of what I came in with. And I always knew, and I was very fortunate to know from about the time that I was 18 years old, what I wanted to do as a career for the rest of my life, which was be a chiropractor. Sure. And with knowing that, I knew, okay, I've at least got 4 years of undergrad and then roughly 4 years of grad school, 3.5, but who's counting? So I knew the path that I wanted to take, which was extremely helpful. And with all of that being said, I found out and reached out to my grad school that I wanted to go to. And I said, hey, what are the requirements to come here? Do I have to take the MCAT? What do I have to have for a GPA? All of that different stuff. And they said, well, actually, what standing are you in school? I said, well, I'm a junior. Yeah. And they said, well, how many credit hours do you have? And at that point, I think I had over 120. So technically I could have graduated had I.
Sure. And you were grinding early on too, right? Yes. Like I feel like you always had a super heavy class load.
Yeah, super heavy class load. And I also came in with credits too, which made a really big difference. Sure. But they told me, they're like, well, you can come here with only having 90 credits and you can finish your undergrad degree at the same time as finishing your graduate degree.
Sure.
And I just looked at them with this blank stare on my face and said, well, when can I apply if I
can leave?
Yeah, I was like, wait, I can leave?
Yeah.
So I applied to my school. They accepted me early with, you just had to have over 90 credit hours and obviously, of course, be in good academic standing. Sure. And so I actually did not complete my senior year at UWL. A lot of people think, I always share this story, a lot of people think I dropped out of college and just miraculously made it into chiropractic school. No, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I just essentially left early. And when I was at Palmer grad school for being a chiropractor, my first year, I was actually simultaneously able to finish my undergraduate degree while I was working on my doctorate degree. So they call it a 3+1 program, especially if there's anybody listening that might want to go into a pre-professional program or something like dentistry or optometry. Look if the school has a 3+1 program, because I couldn't believe it. Obviously, they don't advertise that a ton because it saves a lot of people a lot of money. Yes. But when I found out about that, I was like, we're doing it. Sign me up. Say less.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that actually is, now that I remember that too, I think they have something with that with engineering at UWL as well. Cause I think my buddy Ryan did that. He actually finished at Madison then for his degree in engineering. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's super cool. So, obviously going through that process and moving to Iowa from UWL, obviously you set up, you make a lot of friendships, you build a lot of professional connections, things like that while you're there. Was that an adjustment for you? Because you weren't that far from home, right? Where you went to UWL, but moving to Iowa is a little different animal. How was that like moving to Iowa? and kind of having to reset up shop in a new place.
Yeah. So growing up, I'm originally from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, which is only about 2.5 or 2 hours from La Crosse. So I
Yeah,
could go home on the weekend. I could see my family. It wasn't hard, but
sure.
Iowa from my hometown was 5 hours away. And so that is the farthest away that I had been from home, but I always knew like I wanted to leave home. I told
Yeah,
my parents, hey, I'm not going to college around here. I'm going to get the full experience. And
yeah,
the hardest part wasn't leaving my family truly because I'd always planned on that. And I've shared this
yeah,
before, but the hardest part was leaving all of my friends. And my friends did not understand at the time. And unfortunately, I'm not friends with anybody that I went to undergrad with except for like one girl, but
yeah.
none of my friends
And
understood.
me.
And you. Yes, yes.
Okay, go on.
But none of my friends understood, okay, why is Kelsey forfeiting her senior year? It's the best year of our lives. Maybe they were taking a super senior year. Like,
Hmm.
why is she leaving? And I
Sure.
just knew that, well, I still got, 3, 4 years of school left. Like, I just want to get this done. And so
Yeah,
I share openly on my, social media that everybody always tells you going to college, like you're going to meet your best friends. These are going to be your friends for life. You're going to do reunions with them. You're going to get
sure.
together with them. And it was so hard for me to be hit with reality in the face when I left my undergrad school that I'm not going to be friends with any of these people. And
Yeah.
it wasn't because we were, like we had a falling out or anything. It
Yep.
was Kelsey's doing something different with her life and her friends didn't want to be involved in that. And that's
Yeah.
okay. And so
Sure.
the hardest part was, oh my gosh, I'm a freshman again. I have to make friends again. I just did this like 3 years ago.
Sure.
So I know I can do it again, but I wasn't planning to do it again, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think that's a really good lesson for a lot of people too, is you have to find your community too. So it doesn't mean that you don't have steps along the way, right? High school is one of them, college, right? Your undergrad at UWL was one of them. But I think for you, your big goal was always chiropractic school,
Yeah,
right? And so for you, you obviously established these friendships, you had great experiences at UWL, but for me, it kind of sounds like that still wasn't your group yet. That still
right.
wasn't your community that you were going to, like set up shop with, so to speak. So
Exactly. And if you think about it, it's not a bad thing that your friends in undergrad are doing so many different things.
yeah,
Somebody's going to school to be an accountant, somebody's in business, somebody's a teacher, there's so many different things.
sure.
And I was really the only one in my friend group that was like, okay, pre-professional, exercise science, nose in the dirt all the time.
Yep.
Like you were grinding through school, taking however many anatomy classes at one time. But I knew that, and I was very happy I did that because it made chiropractic school a lot more attainable. I won't say easier, but
Yeah.
attainable. So I just had to be okay with, what, these are my people for a short-term period. People come into your life for a reason, a season, a blessing, or a lifetime. And
Yeah.
those people were just seasons and they taught me a lot, but that was very difficult for me being like, okay, I'm the new kid. I have no friends,
Yeah.
but everyone at chiropractic school was in the same boat. Nobody knew each other.
Yeah.
So it was much easier to make friends when I got there.
Did you feel like that time when you moved to Iowa and where you didn't notice many people, did you feel like that was a time in your life where you're able to like refocus and really kind of hone in what you wanted in life? I know you always, from when I met you, I think you had a very clear path in mind for what you wanted to do, but did you almost feel like moving away allowed you to kind of eliminate distractions, sit down with just you and go, okay, I got to make time for school. I got to focus on these things. Like in retrospect, do you find yourself grateful for that period of time?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say it was ever lonely because you're always around people in
Yeah,
chiropractic
sure.
school. I mean,
Yeah.
we say you go to war together. So it was
Yeah.
one of those things where I wasn't ever alone, but I think that the clarity of, okay, what are the qualities that I want to attract in people who are my friends? What do I really want to do with the rest of my life? Not just Kelsey as the chiropractor, but what kind of impact do I want to
Yeah.
have? And that starts with developing those relationships with people around you or making connections to know those people around you. So I'm very, very grateful, hindsight, for that time. Even when I was in the moment, I never thought I was going to get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say too, obviously you go from there to Alabama afterwards, but you obviously finish up at Palmer then
Mhm.
and you become a chiropractor. I think it's important for some of the people listening because there's people in a bunch of different allied health fields, or there's people that maybe are kind of unsure about, what it looks like, how rigorous it really is to become a chiropractor.
Yeah.
What did that look like semester to semester? I know that you had trimesters, I remember you saying, and then
Yep.
you had board exams that you had to take periodically. What was the process while you were at chiropractic school for becoming a chiropractor and eventually taking your, your boards exams and things like that?
Right. Also, I just realized something too, that we
Yeah.
totally met like in 2016. It wasn't 2018 or 19 like I thought it was. It was way before that.
Oh
So
yeah. There we go.
really dating myself here.
Yeah.
But I started
It's all
Palmer.
a blur at this point.
It is.
I feel like, especially with COVID happening, like there's like, what, 2020 wasn't 1 year ago? No, it's
Just delete it.
2023. Yeah,
Delete
just
it.
done.
Yes.
Done.
So I
Delete.
started at Palmer in October of 2018. So there is
Yep.
10 trimesters entirety. So trimesters are 4 months long. You go all year round. So very minimal breaks. You might get a week off at Christmas, maybe a month if you're lucky in the summer, but you are going to school full time. That is your job. And so
Yep.
with 10 trimesters total, that is your school work to just say, okay, I am a licensed doctor of chiropractic. But then not only do you have to complete that, you also have to complete 5 national board exams. So
Sure.
these happen throughout your time in school. So a lot of other medical professions, you take your board exams after you're done with
Afterwards.
school. In
Yep.
chiropractic school, you take them simultaneously. So the first part comes around 5th try or so. Parts
Mhm.
2, 3, and PT are roughly around like 7th, 8th-ish try or so.
Yep.
And then part 4, which is your clinical competency exam, comes in anywhere from your 9th try to your 10th try, depending on the
Yeah.
year and how it falls. So not only was I, taking, I wish I could remember the exact number off the top of my head. I think the most rigorous semester I had was 32 credits.
Oh my gosh.
And UWL, the max you could take was 18, and you had to get
Yeah.
approval from like 4 different people to do
Yeah. You
that.
had to talk to the advisors and yeah.
Right. And they had to be like, listen, Tyler, that's
Yeah.
probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. No, Palmer did not care. They were just like
Yeah.
32 credits. Here you go. And
Cool.
so, of course, that wasn't every single trimester,
Sure.
but it was frequently. And so,
Yeah.
when you complete all of that and you're simultaneously doing board exams, obviously you can figure out that that's your full-time job and you live and breathe that consistently.
Yes. Yes. And that's crazy. Do you feel grateful for that structure too? Because I feel like, with such a rigorous schedule like that, I think a big thing that a lot of people probably wonder about you is you're involved in so much, right? When I talk to you, you're creating content and you're a coach and you're a chiropractor and you're an athlete for First Form. Did you feel like having rigorous semesters like that? Because some of the times people are like, hey, I don't know if college really prepares you for the real world, this or that. But I think from a time management standpoint, did you feel like some of those semesters, those trimesters prepared you for what you do now? And it feels a little bit more like you can handle more that way.
Absolutely. I would say that Palmer is one of the main areas in my life or a period of my life, if you will, that taught me
Yeah,
how to cultivate discipline. It
sure.
was, yes, exams were structured. I mean, we would have exams, and I kid you not, every single day of like an entire week's period.
Yeah,
And then you'd get like maybe 2 or 3 days off, and it was exam, or quiz or something consistently.
yeah,
And so, when you have 4 exams in a class and you're taking 8 or 9 classes in a trimester, that's
yeah,
almost, it feels like an exam every day of the try.
yeah,
And so, given that my life was so structured, it helped me. Okay, from this time to this time, kind of like time blocking. I'm going to
yeah,
go to the gym and I have time to work out. Okay, between here
yes,
and there, it's class time and it's work time. And then, okay, here, I'm going to wind down, I'm going to study, do those things. So, yes, cultivating a schedule and
yeah,
learning to operate off of a schedule, absolutely. I would say the only one downfall is having so much structure like that for so many years. I'm
yeah,
really bad at taking time off, or I'm really bad at taking off days and
yeah,
figuring
like doing
out,
nothing. Yeah,
yeah, if I'm doing nothing, I'm sitting on the computer and like editing a video or something
sure,
like that.
sure.
And that's not nothing. That's still
Yeah,
something. And so it's definitely a learning process to figure out now, okay, what does Kelsey's new structure look like? But I also started to respect, other people gave me structure then, and I give
yeah,
myself structure now.
yeah,
So there's a very big difference. But
sure.
had I not been as disciplined as a person as I was going into chiropractic school, and the discipline I was able to cultivate, it would have been a lot harder. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's really cool too, you working with clients or patients now because you understand the extremes of it. I think that's a
Totally.
really big thing to be able to speak to, because sometimes people are like, look, too much structure is too much structure. And I agree. But at the same time, I don't think you really know what you're capable of from a structure standpoint, how much you can really squeeze, squeeze into your schedule and accomplish until you push yourself to your limits. Clearly, someone like Kelsey, a little bit further, can take herself a little bit further, but I think it's a really good lesson for any patient or client. Like, look at all she had going on. She still found time to work out, still found time to sleep, maybe not as much, right? But still found time to do all these things. And now you kind of are able to now step back from that and go, okay, where's my healthy median for what I want to accomplish?
And I didn't have the time, I had to make the time. And
Yeah.
had
Oh
I
yeah.
never, had I
Preach.
never had that rigorous of a schedule, I also wouldn't have learned how to make time. I really
Yeah.
truly wouldn't have. I would have always thought like, okay, tomorrow's the day, Monday's the day, next
Yeah.
month, the first, whatever it may be. I always, before that, had operated on, I'll do it when I get there or when
Yeah.
time slows down.
Sure.
And grad school was such a healthy dose of, Kelsey, your life is never going to get less busy. It's only going to get
Yeah.
busier. So it's your job to figure it out. And kind of when I was forced with that, this is the ultimatum. This is a non-negotiable. Either you're getting your doctorate or you're not type of thing. It was really productive for me to be able to grow through that.
I think that's cool. And a coach that I really like, he talks about the illusion of choice. And I think that is really what it sounds like you learned in grad school was like, look, yeah, you think you have all these decisions, but really when it comes down to it, there's only one way, right? Like if I want to make it through school and fitness is a priority and my family is a priority and insert whatever the thing that is important to you is a priority, you might think you have all this time in the world to do it whenever you want, but realistically you don't, you got to do it now. So I think that's really cool. So out of there, right? Like you finished chiropractic school, then you're in Alabama now, right? I believe. And so why did you decide Alabama? Obviously, like most people that think of like Bama, right? They think of this big football school, big sporting school. For you, how did you decide? Because I know part of what we discussed last time was you had some professional experiences in college, I believe, that you were working in the South. How did you pick Alabama afterwards?
So it's really crazy to say that. So I picked Alabama afterwards. They picked me first. And
cool.
I know it's kind of crazy. So when you're in chiropractic school, you have the opportunity. So your last 8 months of school, so 2 trimesters, the only way you can leave 8 months early is if you go serve the nation's veterans at a VA hospital. So with my dad being a veteran, it was, and myself, just not having the ability to serve, it was the closest way that I could give back to what my dad did for our country and what all of our other veterans do for our country. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to apply to the VA rotation. You have to be selected for it. It's a significant vetting process. You have to go through interviews and then locations reach out to you if they want you in your skill set. And so along the way, my boyfriend Logan was actually here in Tuscaloosa 4 months before me. And he just kind of was chatting up with the doc and he said, she's really, really, really great at what she does. And you and the practice could benefit from having her here. And so I came down here again, being selected for a VA rotation, fell in love with the South. I loved the weather. I loved the town. Yes, the stereotypical, this is a college town is so true. There's, footballs are really big here, but it's a beautiful town. And I had such terrible misconceptions about Alabama before moving here. I thought it was going to be backwoods. It was all hillbillies. There was there was not going to be anything to do.
Everybody is playing a banjo on their front step type of thing. Yeah.
It's like, go like an hour away from here. You can find that. But everyone is so nice and Southern charm is real. And so when I was fortunate enough to do 4 months here, and then I also did 4 months in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I didn't love Louisiana as much. It's just, there wasn't a ton there for me, but I met and networked with a lot of really, really great providers here in Tuscaloosa. And to the point where it landed me a job opportunity after I graduated. And I just decided, well, okay, Kelsey, you don't want to go home, and Wisconsin's cold, right? You don't live in Wisconsin anymore either.
I get it. I see the snaps and like, it's 3 degrees. I'm like, it's 63. It feels cold here,
Exactly. And I have a jacket on. But I just decided, you know what, if you don't like it, you can go home. You can go back. And so I chose to make the difficult decision to move 15 hours away from home. And I thought 5 hours was far in grad school. It's even farther now, but it's because of being very uncomfortable and taking opportunities, I really didn't know a ton about. And
Yeah.
coming down here on a whim, on a man's word, on a doc's word that I worked for, it
Yeah.
absolutely changed my life. And this is a place I get to call home now.
Yeah, and I think that's so cool. It's a really good lesson for anyone listening too about networking while you're in college. Yes, obviously what you learn, your coursework, things like that, so important, right? For
Yes.
building a foundation, but the people you connect with are ultimately going to be able to determine how far you can get, right? Unless you're really, really good. Even the people that are really, really good, right? They need
Yes.
to know someone, they need to be connected with someone. So I think that's super cool. I want to go into something because I just thought about it right off the bat when you were talking
Yeah.
about making that 15-hour move. Did you struggle like when you moved? And again, same kind of deal as when you moved to Iowa, but you're even further this time. What was that like? I know obviously you had your boyfriend then, so that was probably helpful, but did you find yourself sometimes being homesick? Like, what were some of the things that you encountered when you move, or were you just more well prepared this time?
I think I was much more well prepared because,
Yeah.
again, being around people at chiropractic school, you're never alone. You're with people all the time. And I
Yeah.
think I was so ready to have my own schedule, my own space, be by
Yeah.
myself. Honestly, this is going to sound terrible, but I was ready to not be told what to do every single day
Yeah.
by a professor. I could just
Yeah.
live my life. I could treat patients the way that I wanted to treat patients. And
Yep.
at that point, I had matured so much through my clinical skills. I was just ready. I was
Sure.
ready to go and to be put to the test because although my schooling prepared me very well from a standpoint of, okay, a patient walks in my office. Do I know what to do and appropriately triage them? Yes. However, accurate diagnostics of patients and seeing
Sure.
volume of patients,
Yeah.
that was from my own experiences going to the VA and going to Lake Charles and doing those different things. So I was just, yes, I was much more prepared. Was I scared? A little bit, but I think
Yeah.
that it was a healthy dose of fear. I think I was scared because
Yeah.
it was finally what I wanted to do. And it felt like I just blinked and 3 years was here and I was
Yep.
I was moving out and I was doing the dang thing. I
Yeah.
think
You're
that
hooking up the U-Haul and you're like, oh my gosh.
like,
Yep.
it's here, it's here.
Yep.
So, I was ready more than anything. I wasn't sad for leaving or anything. I said, "My
No.
parents and my family can come visit. It's warm here.
Sure.
It's the sun shines."
This is
I
the
was
destination people want to visit. Yep.
yes.
No, I love that. And
So,
I
I
think
was
that's,
ready.
yeah, no, and I think that's super cool too, because, making that move, you think like moving that far away, but yeah, you were ready to apply all the skills that you had learned in school, all the skills that you had learned in your experiential learning, that you
Yes.
had at the different hospitals. What was the biggest learning curve for you when you started really? Because I know you worked at, you've been working in practices for quite a while now. What was your biggest learning curve? Because I think that's another thing too, is I think people think when you get done with school, you're like, okay, I am now a chiropractor, or I'm a fitness coach, or I'm a PT. I'm ready to go. And to some degree, that's true, right? You have a lot of exposure, but what did you feel like your biggest learning curve was when you started practicing for yourself and you're talking about larger volumes of patients? Like, did you ever feel overwhelmed? Like, what the hell's going on? Like, how was that?
Absolutely, I felt overwhelmed. I think if you don't feel overwhelmed, you're a psychopath and something's wrong with you.
And you
Yes,
don't
I
care,
felt
right?
yeah, yes. Of course I felt overwhelmed. I share the story that in my first clinical week of practice, actually like week and a half, I caught an active heart attack. And that's something that you just never think that you're going to see.
Yeah.
Or they tell you in school, these are the zebras. These things don't walk in your office. They're gonna go somewhere else. No,
Yes.
no, they
No,
sit
it might
right in
happen
front of
right
you.
there. Yep.
Correct. They sit right in front of you. And so I think it was just one of those things where I knew it was always a possibility to see certain stuff. One, I didn't know it was going to be that fast. And I don't think anybody else thought it was going
Yeah.
to be that fast, but
Sure.
you see stuff that school tells you you're never going to see, or you see patients with conditions that, are very rare that you don't think you're going to see. And it's just like, okay, well, I'm glad I paid attention in
Yeah.
pathology, or I'm glad I paid attention in whatever, emergency procedures class
Yeah.
that was. So I think it was just almost the shell shock of I'm not in wellness care anymore. I'm in
Yeah.
actual physical health care where
Yeah.
these people walk in with real problems and real conditions and they're just
Yeah.
looking for help. So they're no
For
different
sure.
than people who just want wellness care. But it was kind of like, oh, okay, so we're doing this now. I'm
Yeah.
now the one responsible for
I'm
patients'
doing this.
lives.
Yep.
It's not the doc I'm working under, it's me. So
Yeah.
It was again, another healthy dose of fear, because
Yeah.
you take your job very seriously and
Yeah.
people trust you with their health. And that's not something to be taken lightly. And once
Yeah.
I kind of got through those first couple of weeks and the first couple months of
Sure.
practice, we're rocking and rolling now. We're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, right? Like you kind of almost get that imposter syndrome in the beginning when you first start doing what you do, because you're like, oh man, like all these other people know what they know what they're doing, and they've
Yes.
always known what they're doing, and it's just not the case. I think what you bring up in that is like all these different cases of this and that. Maybe some things that don't even fall under your scope of practice, right? People walking
Right.
in for whatever. How would you say, like for people that are listening, is I know you're so big on building your professional network.
Yes.
How do you go about doing that? Because you're obviously having patients come in for a million different things. Same thing in fitness too, right? You might be like, hey, you need a health intervention. You don't need a fitness intervention, right?
Correct.
So how have you gone about surrounding yourself with other good professionals in other field, and like kind of speak to that?
Great question. So I really just started to learn, okay, what is my skill set? What am I
Yep.
very good at? And why am I good at that? Right. My expertise is musculoskeletal health. There
Yep.
is, that's what I know, like the back of my hand, and
Sure.
what I can treat really great. Guess what I don't treat really great? Things like diabetes, things
Yep.
like internal medicine. It's not my scope of practice, just like you said.
Sure.
So one of my first goals was, all right, I'm going to become really good friends with a primary care physician here.
Cool.
I'm going to meet a primary care physician. I'm going to get in touch with a neurologist, because there, again, are things that are outside of your scope of practice. Yes, I
Sure.
can order an MRI, but should I be the one reading the MRI? Probably
Yeah.
not. So I
Yeah.
want a neurologist to do that. Or, if I've got somebody that comes in right after a car accident type of thing, I need to get them to the appropriate place. So I thought, okay, in my head, and the help working at the VA vastly helped with this too.
Sure.
Walks in with X condition, that's not my scope of practice. How can I appropriately triage them? And
Yep.
I just started meeting with providers in the community, and I said, hey, you do this, I do this, they're two separate things,
Yep.
but we still can collaborate and we can still work together. Here's what I can
Sure.
do for you, or what do you not like to treat that would be really helpful to have a musculoskeletal provider
Yeah.
to look at.
Yep.
And that has worked phenomenally. There's a great primary care I work with on a day-to-day basis. Anybody who has just low grade back pain that doesn't seem like anything serious, they're going to get a referral over to me and for me to look at them.
Yeah.
Yes, he could prescribe a whole bunch of medications, but he's like, hey, let's let Kelsey take a look at you and really truly figure out what's going on.
Sure.
And, but again, that's because I went and said, hey, I know I'm not treating diabetes, I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
treating all these
Yeah.
things, your scope of practice. And I just established that relationship with providers that I respected where they were. I
Yeah.
was not trying to step on their toes. All I was trying to do is, hey, how can I serve you? Or here's what
Yeah.
I can help you with. And they were so receptive to that.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's a really important lesson too for anyone listening. It's like it takes so much humility and it takes so much professionalism to walk into someone in another scope, walk into their practice and be like, look, this is what I'm really great at.
Yep.
I do this at a high level, but I realize I get people come in here that have this, or they need help with X or Y.
Yep.
I want to go to you. And I think in doing that, it's really cool, because what I've noticed is when I do that with people is the humility is almost contagious, because they go, oh yeah, when I get a client like this, I know Tyler does X or Kelsey does Y, right? And so
Yep.
you build a really good professional network where everybody wins, right? You get referrals, you give out referrals, the client and the patient, they get the best care possible.
And on top of it too, you're still allowing the patient to be a part of the decision, instead of
Yeah.
just keeping them there, or the client, and saying, no, actually, like, I can do this. Fully
Yep.
know you might not be able to do it to 100%, nor should you do it to 100%.
Yeah.
You're giving the client or the patient autonomy to still be
No
in
doubt.
and involved in their care. And that's so huge too. And like we talked about on the last podcast too, we said how, really all it is it's solving people's problems, but
Yep. Be a
actually
solution.
caring about them. Yes, providing a solution. And let's say that, I come to you as a personal training client, but I keep consistently complaining about one of my eyes, or something's
Yeah.
just wrong. And you say, well, you know what? Actually, I know a really good optometrist. I'm going to trust you so much more in the future when I
Sure.
have a problem, even if it's not something that you have the solution for, because you appropriately got me where I needed to go, or you got me the information that you did. And that's what it's all about. It's about the ability to step back and say, I don't have the answer, but I know someone who does. And let
Yeah.
me let me get you associated with them. And
Yeah.
there is no bigger trust builder than that right there. There is
Yeah.
no bigger rapport builder than being able to take off doctor hat, put
Yeah.
on human Kelsey hat, and just have that conversation.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I think you really speak to where I hope the future of health and fitness goes for the most part is we need to be concierge for people almost, right? You can be really, really good in what you do it well, do it at a high level. But
Yep.
the moment it starts to get into that gray area, collaborate and be the concierge, by building those professional networks, you're gonna know a little bit about a lot. And then when you do
Yes.
that, you can really make sure that you peg these people into the right type of care.
1,000%. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just like, a patient came to me and she said, "Hey, I have these certain goals, but my primary care is wanting me to see a registered dietitian." I said, "Well, that's great. If your primary
Cool.
care suggested that you see a registered dietitian, let's do that." That's
Yeah.
awesome because although I can provide you the basics about nutrition on
Sure.
a patient provider working
Yeah.
relationship, let's get you to somebody that does this every single day and does it
Yes.
very, very well.
Yes. And it's also knowing like when your scope of practice, it goes into more of a clinical situation, right? Like I
Yep.
know that with nutrition coaching all the time. I do have to always take a step back when I'm dealing with someone that has like, they're showing signs of disordered eating and things like that. It's like,
Sure.
look, nothing but love for you as a client, but I got to make sure I'm doing right by you. Maybe nutrition coaching isn't the solution, right? Maybe getting with a registered dietitian,
There
maybe
you go.
meeting with a counselor, right? Like someone in mental health. That
Yes.
can also be a really important thing to have in your network as well.
And because if you don't give them that answer, they will go seek it from someone else.
Yeah.
Someone else will give them the answer. And if you could have been the opportunity just to give them that answer, that changes everything for them. Again, they're going to come
Yeah.
back to you in the future. So you're totally right. It's just talking about, humility and just being a good human, still doing the right thing, even if you're not going to
Yeah.
monetarily benefit from it
Sure.
whatsoever.
Yeah, it's weird too, because if you think about it, when people come to you for a fitness solution to a health problem, think about this. If you don't do a good job of referring them out too, they will blame you for not getting where you want to go because they think in their head, oh man, this is part of their scope. I needed this done. They couldn't do it. And
Yes.
so yeah, you
Negative
got to
word of
really know
mouth
where that
spreads. Yes. Negative word of mouth spreads much
for
faster than
sure. For sure. So I want to go into, so obviously you work as an online coach, you work as a chiropractor. We kind of talked
Yeah,
about that piece. You're a first form athlete, right? You coach through that platform.
I do.
Can you share a little bit about kind of the fitness side of things? Obviously kind of moving out of the chiropractic stuff, putting on your coaching hat now.
Yeah.
It was super cool. First Form's an awesome company. Can you share a little bit about that and kind of your coaching journey with them, and maybe your coaching journey even before them?
Sure. So I started my business as a health and fitness coach when I was about 20 years old. I was still at
Yeah.
UWL. I was a junior in college and I had no idea what I was doing. I had not a clue, not a
Sure.
single clue what I was doing. And I
Yeah.
also think it's important to tell people, I used to be very embarrassed to tell people this, but I do think it's so important now because it was such an integral part of my journey that I
Yeah.
actually came into health and fitness coaching through network marketing.
Yeah.
Not ideal by any means, but here's
Sure.
the thing. I would have never started my Instagram page. I would have never started my public social media
Yes.
had I not, had someone show me, okay, here's the things that you do. Here's what you're going to post. Here's what you're going to talk about. So I didn't stay with that company for very long by any means and quickly found out, okay, I can share my journey the way that I want to. But again, it was a catalyst. And I think it's really important for you to recognize the things that
Sure.
got you to where you are now. So
Yeah.
I just started sharing my fitness journey on health, and health and fitness on social media. I would post my workouts. I would share
Yep.
recipes. I would say, hey, with a busy schedule, taking 32 credits, here's how I still get a workout in. Here's how I still make time to go to the gym and how I
Sure.
make time for healthy meals. And I am still so proud to this day that there was not a single week, even with finals, there was not a single
Yep.
week in my entire 3.5 years at Palmer that I took a week off the gym.
Sure.
And that can mean so many different things to other
So
people.
cool.
Some days it was just walking, some days it was weight training, whatever that may be. But I showed people through my platform how to maintain consistency.
Yeah.
And that took me through most of my entire time at Palmer. So I took personal online one-on-one clients where I would nutrition coach and I would
Yep.
train them. And that was all my own business until
Sure.
back in September of last year. First Form had reached out to me and they said, hey, Kelsey, is there any way that you'd want to be affiliated with our brand? Do you want to come on and be
Mhm.
an athlete for us? And
Yeah.
being an athlete versus an elite athlete, different thing. But anyway, regardless of what that means, and an athlete is just someone that represents their brand. And
Yeah.
when I got reached out to by them, I probably passed out on the floor
Yeah.
because I was like, wait, what? I was like, me, like seriously, me.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people don't know is being an athlete for First Form was on my dream board for 4 years.
Yeah.
And was I doing anything actively to work towards it? Not really. I was just showing up as myself and happened to
Sure.
be living by their core values. And
Yeah.
so when they reached out to me and they said, hey, do you want to come on and be a part of the team? And I found out there was an opportunity to coach through their platform. It took me about 2 seconds to say yes. And so now I have fully transitioned all of my own personal clients that I was coaching over to First Form's platform. So
Yeah.
I don't have Kelsey Arneson Fitness anymore. Everything now we've transitioned over to what we call the Invictus Core. And so that's been a really fun journey over the last year and a half. And honestly, it's grown 10 times faster than my personal business ever did. So I was very weary about, I talk about how you can take an engine and you can hook your train onto it. And I really didn't want to do that because I wanted to be self-made and I wanted to do it all. But I realized, because you don't have to. You really don't have to. You can let other people help you. And when I could finally cultivate and create the culture that I wanted, because it was already developed within a company, it was super, super easy for me to say, all right, First Form's the way that I want to go. So that's where we are now.
Sure. And I think that's super cool, because I think the bigger thing than even just having your own personal brand or this or that, it's like finding your people. And that's the thing too, is by hooking your train, your car up to someone else's train, like you go further. I mean, you do. It doesn't mean that you're not still you. Doesn't mean you can't still have your values. But if you're hooking yourself up to the right people, you're going to go a lot further that way. You're going to reach more people. So I think that's super cool. You had that experience. Would you say then too, I want to kind of get a little insight for maybe some of the coaches listening. What does some of that process look like? Because I think sometimes people they get into coaching and they maybe go like the route I did, where, they do trainerize and they're kind of just figuring things out as they go. They don't have a major platform like First Form to go like, okay, this day we do check-ins. These are the days that we do nutrition coaching calls. This is how to lay out exercise programs. What does that look like for you, maybe from a coaching side? And kind of share a little bit about that.
Well, it was a lot of trial and error, and it was mostly error. It was a lot of years of me failing and just being like, what am I doing? Why are my clients not getting results? Like what is going on? And what I had to do is I had to sit back and say, all right, Kelsey, you got to take ownership in this. And I share this frequently, that it's never how the client failed you. It's either how did you fail them or how did they fail themselves? And what I realized before First Form, and I had most of this developed like coming into First Form. I always say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So we were able to go much farther together. Is I didn't have a set day for check-ins. I had no real onboarding call. I was like, okay, here's your macros for the week. Good luck. Like, hope you do great with them.
I'll see you in a week.
Yeah, exactly. And same thing with workout programs. And then I really took a step back about 2 years ago and said, okay, if this person is trusting me with their health and fitness goals, one, I need to make sure that they come into this community and they're ready. If you only want to be coached at a 1, I'm not the coach for you. But if you want to be coached at a 5, 6, 7, all the way up to a 10, let's go, let's ride. I'm that coach for you, because I will not drag you to success. And that's another thing that I learned is I was dragging a lot of clients towards success that they just didn't want to have. They weren't impossible people. They were just not yet people.
They just weren't there yet.
They weren't there yet. And so knowing the difference between, okay, how do I get a client into the process, on the plan, and executing, so that now I'm so far into my journey that I've actually had clients come to me, work with me, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and now they're out on their own doing it all by themselves, and they no longer need me. And I thought when I came in, I was like, my clients are going to be with me for life. And then I quickly realized I don't want that. I want them
to make them dependent.
No, I want them to be able to be independent. And my goal is always that I can educate them so much that they could go teach their mom how to do it. They could go teach their sister how to do it. And guess what? If they want to start coaching and they want to do that, great. I'm here to support them. So I think that's a really roundabout way of saying, one, I didn't have a very scheduled process of how to bring them in, how to take them through, and how to see them go. And secondly, I always was blaming it on everybody else and that it was
Yeah.
everybody else's problem, and had a really hard time looking internally and being like, well, Kelsey, they hired you for a reason. And if they aren't getting results, yes, they very well could have failed themselves, but also where did you fail them?
Sure.
And that also takes a massive amount of humility. It's much easier over the last couple of years, but in the
Yeah.
beginning, I was banging my head against the wall trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And it's weird as the health and fitness professional too. You're like, I don't get it. It's so easy. It's just like this. I do it all the time. And you
Yeah,
don't realize like, man, I've had my whole life to cultivate these habits and
right.
this discipline. And, obviously that's what I'm formally educated in. Why don't they get it? But
Yes.
I think you're speaking to such an important piece for anyone in any field is you can't make someone do something they don't want to do. And so the biggest thing is to make sure you can assess if someone's ready, willing, and able
Yep.
to do what you need them to do and what they need to do to get to where they want to go. So I think that's a super
Absolutely.
cool piece that you spoke to there.
I'm glad because like I said, for the first couple of years, I was always just like, why is everyone not
Yeah.
doing what I want them to do? Well, I wasn't leading by example. I also
Yeah.
wasn't showing them the way to do it. I wasn't setting any boundaries. I didn't have
Yeah.
non-negotiables. I didn't have, a culture to create. And now it's like you come in from day one, you learn what we're doing. And
Yeah.
if we're not, this is so cool. This is a full circle moment for you, Tyler. You probably didn't even
Yeah.
realize this,
Yeah.
that you gave me Urban Meyer's Above the Line. You gave me
Oh
that
yeah.
so many years ago. And what we talk about on the Invictus Core is above the line behavior. And what
Sure.
we're going to operate with is this is the standard. Here's how we run with it. If you're
Yep.
not able to do that right now, we hold nothing against you, but
Yep.
here's where we're at. And instead of everybody, it's just become, some people, and we talked about this last time, that the
Yeah.
30-40-30 rule, 30% are going to do whatever you tell them to do.
Yep.
And 40%, they're going to go either way depending on how you lead them. And then
Yep.
the other 30%, they're just the not yet people. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you've realized this in your coaching too, that over the
Yeah.
last couple of years, you've gotten more of that 40% to come versus go.
Yes.
But in the beginning, it was probably like 31% for me.
Yeah. Well, and think about it too. In the beginning, I'm sure you probably experienced this too. I laugh about it now. It's like, you're just trying to get people to sign up, right? So you'll take anyone. You'd be like, family, this is probably a bad idea. All right, come on, we'll coach you. Friends that I know, you can see just knowing them as people, like they're not going to do any of this. All right, I'll take you. Oh, price point? Oh, we'll keep it low. No, and it's like you talked about building boundaries. Is like the longer you do it, you go, okay, I have a process. This is what needs to be done to get people where they want to go. So you have to have
Yep.
those minimums. You have to have those baselines where it's like, look, I need to have you at least do this, or otherwise we can't even have a decent conversation about getting you to your goals.
And would you rather be, me, a client, leaving you a review and say, yeah, I mean, like Tyler's cool, but he really lets me get away with kind of anything and everything that I want. And
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like here. Or the alternative of, no, Tyler sets me a game plan. I know what I
Yeah.
have to do. He's going to hold me accountable. And if I don't execute, then we're going to work on to the point where I can execute. Everybody
Yeah.
wants a second review. So you setting boundaries and you setting minimum standards for your clients and your community, it is not a selfish thing. I think
No.
it is a selfless thing because they have trusted you enough to take them on that journey.
Yep.
You can't just give half your effort towards it. If you give half your effort, they're given half of your effort.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's a really important thing to speak to too, is like, that's what people do that care about you. Like, think about this in a relationship or professional whatever it is. If you just let people get away with everything and you don't have like a standard for them, boundaries between you and that person,
Yep.
they're just gonna, you're just gonna get taken advantage of. And the thing is, they're also not going to get to where they want to go. So you're going to want to pull your hair out, and they're also going to be sitting there like, well, what the heck did I sign up for? What's going on here?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So,
Yep.
so no, that's great. So in all this kind of, where we go down the coaching rabbit hole here, but love it. Absolutely love it. But so I want to get into, you're talking about social media.
Yeah.
How did you go about organically growing your social media? Because that was one of the biggest thing I noticed about like following you is you can tell when people pay for clicks. You can tell when people pay for followers because
Oh yeah.
the responses, it just looks bananas. Like some of the things they're saying, right? You're like, these people aren't interacting with this content. And when
No.
you look at Kelsey's stuff, right? Like when you look at your stuff, I always just see it's dialogue. It's dialogue. So these people are legitimately following you based on the content that you built for them, and you built an organic following. How'd you go about doing that?
Yeah. Well, that's something that I'm really, really, really proud of. And to always
Yeah.
say that, I never paid for my followers. I never paid
Yeah.
for, any service or anything like that. It was 100% organic the entire time. And is it as fast as other people? Absolutely not. But is it real people?
Yeah.
100%. Now, do
Sure.
I still have bots that come to my page? Of course.
Yeah.
And that's always going to happen. But
Sure.
I just tried to consistently provide value. And one thing that I think is really powerful that I've always had the ability to do, and I encourage people listening to this to do as well, is what did you need to hear when you were starting your journey? Or
Yeah.
what things that maybe you overlook every single day in the gym, such as how does the deadlift, like or an RDL form, differ from a good morning? We
Yeah.
all know that the weight is not in the same place, and
Sure.
you really don't feel the same things, even though your client's understanding that they're working similar muscles.
Yeah.
Little things like that. How can I provide value? And that's what I
Sure.
do every single day at the end of the day. I go back and I watch my story, or I'll go back and I'll look at my post and I say, what did I do to provide value today? I'm
Yeah.
not just sharing memes, I'm not sharing
Yeah.
random things. I'm sharing, hey, guess what? Monday morning, I missed my alarm. I did not wake up on time, but brought my tennis shoes. I put them in my car, in between patient notes. I'm outside getting my outdoor walk-in that I
Yeah.
promised myself I would do. And
Sure.
then the next day I shared how, guess what? Yesterday, yeah, was it ideal? Absolutely not. But today I'm breaking that cycle. I'm not letting it happen for 2 days. And
Yeah.
guess what? I got up at 4:30 this morning, got my workout done. I'm rocking and rolling. I'm ready for work today. I'm early. I just try to share those things. Of one thing you'll find on my page is there's no fluff. There is
Yeah. You keep
no,
it real.
oh yeah, there's no, my life is so perfect and I never struggle. No, it's struggle all the time. We are
Yeah.
driving the bus, okay,
Yeah.
every day. But people relate to that. And when you
Yeah.
provide value through struggle, and I don't just get on and I don't let it be a dumping ground. I don't dump all that and now keep it
Yeah.
positive.
Yep.
If I have something maybe negative that happened within the day, I'm going to share a positive. And over the last 5 years, I guess 50,000 people wanted to listen to that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. And I think it takes we were talking about kind of the humility piece, and that is like sharing the whole part of the journey is like, I think what you were talking about struggle is like the ultimate connector for people, right? So
Absolutely.
what people don't want is, I think a lot of time people in the health and fitness space, they're worried a lot more about what their peers think of their content than they are about the people they're trying to help.
Yes.
So when you listen to their content, they're really jargony, hypertrophy this and da. It's like, who are you helping? And I think that's really helpful to people to realize, like, look, you were trained in this and you still have things that come up on a regular basis where you got to make real-time adjustments. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but
No,
on the bulk of the message, you're doing what you need to do to get to where you want to go. And you're doing it sustainably in a way where, this is a sustainable road for yourself.
exactly. And I shared the other day, and this is a hilarious story. And I really didn't think it was going to blow up that big,
Yeah.
but I shared a story. It was a boomerang of me eating cottage cheese with strawberries or something.
Yeah.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
said, if you need help hitting your protein goal on a day-to-day basis, here's a great way you can easily add that in.
Yeah.
People were like,
What?
cottage cheese has protein.
Yeah.
People lost their minds about it. But again, I wasn't saying, okay, here's all the macros, here's all the things, like here's all the things I do on a
Yes.
daily basis. Here's a full day of eating, right? I'm saying if you want to get more protein in because you
Yep.
either have a weight loss goal and it's going to assist you,
Yep.
or you have a muscle gain goal, hey, cottage cheese is a really great way through a whole food
Sure.
to get protein in. Simplify it.
Yeah.
Stop
And
it.
said like a true Wisconsinite too. I love it.
You know me, I had to throw
Yeah.
cheese in there.
Yeah.
But just make it simple. Really keep it that simple, but ultimately still provide value in that. And that's, I'm sharing,
Yeah.
okay, here is how I get closer to my goals.
Sure.
It's not some fancy $12 shake. It's
Yep.
cottage cheese. It's
Yep.
very, it's simple, because we know as coaches, it's not hard, but it's hard if you don't have a clear path. And
Yeah.
all I'm trying to do every day of just, here's the path. It's not going to be easy. It is a struggle every single day, but it's also attainable every single
Yeah.
day.
And I love that you're going back to like, what would the beginner need to hear? Because I think that's a thing we get disconnected with, right? When we only think about making content for our peers or something like that, is we're like, we
Right.
forget it, what it was like when we were first learning macros and we didn't know shit
Yeah.
about food. Like I think about what I used to eat growing up, things like that. Like,
Oh,
man, the frequency in which I ate vegetables, maybe every once in a while out of a can, like I
yeah.
sometimes you forget that stuff. And sometimes people, you got to be able to make sure you're just reconnecting with your roots, because I think it is super helpful to people, and not making it a math equation too. I love that. Just like, look, you
Yes.
need more protein. Here you go. This is what
Here you go.
do.
Here's a solution. And at the same time, we have to remember that, okay, so generously, I'll give myself 6 years of a fitness journey, probably
Yeah.
4 seriously.
Sure.
I'm still new on my fitness journey too. Like
Yeah.
I still, in the grand scheme of things, I'm very new to this. So
Yeah.
I can't show up and act like I know everything. I'm
Yeah.
figuring it out,
Sure.
but keep it simple. Keep it
Yeah.
really simple and think back, what did you need to know? And if you can watch your story at the end of the day and say, I provided value,
Yeah.
I promise you the people will come. And the
Sure.
people who, don't need to be there or who aren't going to be supportive aren't there. And that's another thing I wanted to mention too is
Yeah.
when I started my fitness page, almost every single person I went to high school with unfollowed me. Okay.
Yeah.
Almost every single one. And I would
Yeah.
hear when I would go home for the summer, I hated going home. Oh, Kelsey's back. I wonder what she's going to post on Instagram today.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And it was just the mockery.
Yeah.
But I just kept my head down and I was like, well, you're not headed where I'm headed. And that's
Yeah.
okay. And I wish you nothing but the best on your journey,
Yeah.
but you aren't going where I'm going. And guess what? Almost all of those people still follow me. And a
Yeah.
lot of them are now my clients, or
Yep.
they've reached out to me in some sort of way of health and fitness, encouragement or advice. And so I never did anything out of spite. I will never
No.
ever say that. But I was also just, I was a person who basically said, all right, if you're not going to support me, I'm going to support myself. And the people along the way who came, do you think those 50,000 people are from my hometown? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And I think that's a really cool thing. And just like, I think it's so cool that you are who you are and you kind of drew that line in the sand. I think that's the thing too, where we do from like high school and from when we were growing up, we always have like these list of people we're trying to, maybe impress or put out content for. And then the further you get in your journey, you're like, man, like I'm trying to like impress people that are not even trying to do the things I'm trying to do. And the more you are authentic to you, the more you are like true to yourself and honest with what you're trying to do, you find all those people. And it's just like the community and the energy you get from those type of people versus like trying to convince other people to do something differently. It's immensely better than trying to go that route.
1,000%. The day I met Logan, before we were even dating my boyfriend, he told me, he goes, just a warning, because we went to chiropractic school together. He goes, just don't take advice from somebody you wouldn't willingly trade places with. And I was like, oh, okay, that's easy advice. And then it just became, I really thought about it and I said, would I really take advice from these people that quote unquote don't want to support me? Absolutely not. Do I want to trade places with them? No. So immediately I just stopped taking advice or stopped taking criticism from those people because I didn't want to give up my life to start living theirs.
Yeah.
So,
and it's weird too. People think that like you have to support and like want to do what someone else is doing to like just be happy for them. It's weird how some people are like that. It's like, look, man, I'm not trying to get you to do anything. No. This is just the way I live my life. And I hope you get yours too. But if not, and you don't support that, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Yes. And it's important for us to have different interests. It's important for us to, to be able to support people in different facets. So you just kind of, like you said it perfectly. I just drew the line in the sand. That was it. And we just moved forward from there.
Yeah. I think that's great. So it's 2023 now, obviously the new year didn't happen that long ago. I think probably a really great way to finish this podcast is, Kelsey, for you looking ahead, right? Looking back on all you've accomplished. It's been really cool to kind of sit down and kind of rehash out everything that's happened. A lot of accomplishments, a lot of things that you've overcome to get to this point, but thinking forward now, like what are some of your big goals for 2023, Kelsey? And what does that look like for you? Like for you to get to the end of this year and you had really accomplished something you wanted to, what would it look like?
I said this last podcast and you can't see me, but my hands are starting to sweat because I get really nervous when I talk about my goals. And that's another something that if your goals don't make you scared, they're not big enough. Yeah. I've shared this before, but I'm getting more public about it because I truly believe that what you put out into the universe is going to come back to you. And no doubt, my goal is that within our coaching business, that we can impact so many lives. I'm able to full-time leave clinical practice. And that is a choice. I love being a doctor. I love seeing patients, but I love giving my time to clients. And I thought getting into chiropractic, I would see a lot of healthcare. And I still do see a lot of sick care. There is a lot of sick care within chiropractic. But one of my favorite things about health and fitness coaching is everybody that's on our team has a want to get better. They know that they have to change to get to where they want to go. And seeing that come to life every single day, every single week, months, through our challenges, whatever it may be, that's the fire that fuels me. And so what would allow 2023 and what is going to happen is
There you
that
go.
we can do so many different things within the Invictus core that I'm able to leave practice full time
Yeah.
and be at home, I would love to own my own studio gym where it can dual as a chiropractic office if
Yeah.
I want to. Like, I don't own my own practice right now. I never
Yeah.
really thought I wanted to own my own practice. I would
Yeah.
love to have a studio gym and just have that as a service inside
Yeah.
and be able to work for myself. I love making my hours right now. I'm fortunate enough at the practice I'm at to make my own hours.
Yeah.
And I've had the luxury to do that. And I just want to continue to do that. So that is a huge thing that's on the horizon for 2023 is leaving full-time clinical practice or being able to replace the income that I make as a doctor with being a full-time health and fitness coach.
Yeah, I think it's really cool too. You're talking about just kind of having the freedom. And I feel like this is always, I can tell when I'm talking to a mature, like health and fitness professional or chiropractor or someone in healthcare, is when you get to that point where you're like, I really love what I do, but I want to have more of a say in when I do it and how I do it. And I think there's really no other way to do it other than to find a way to make enough money in something you really, really love to
Yeah.
make sure that you can have the freedom to do all the other things you want to do in the way you want to do them. So I think number one, pretty much from the moment I met you, you talked about being a chiropractor, you are. I don't see that not happening. Obviously, there's a lot of hard work that happens between now and then,
Yeah.
but I, you know, I think knowing you, you're going to break it down into small, sizable goals, across a year, and I'm really excited to see how that goes for you.
Thank you. And the good part about it is if I fall short, I still love my life and
Yeah,
I still love what
no
I do.
doubt.
And yes, and I get the opportunity to do both. And I have
Yep.
the opportunity to do both. So, that's exciting. I mean, obviously if it weren't for student loans, that'd be different,
Yeah.
but there's another thing, there's another
Yeah.
thing there.
There you
But
go. We'll do a whole separate podcast on that. And
yes, but it's just, no, I'm very blessed to be where I am. I'm very blessed to lead the team that we lead
yeah,
and to be able to also have an incredible community like First Form behind us. And,
yeah,
I truly 3 years ago, Kelsey would have never believed that this version of myself is possible.
yeah,
But I love her so much and I'm so proud of what we've been able to do. And I'm just excited to keep changing lives. That's what it's all about is, the fact if you're a coach and you're listening to this and someone has trusted you with their journey, that's not something to take lightly. You have the opportunity within the palm of your hands to change that person's life. And it's your duty, your obligation, your responsibility to do so and to teach them how to do it too.
yeah. I love that, Kelsey. And I'm going to just end on that note because that's some pretty profound stuff. Kelsey, thank you so much for coming on
Of
today. It was
course.
nice to connect. Kelsey and I will have some cool, some equipment stuff coming soon.
Yes, I
We'll
will.
have to talk about that in another podcast. For today, I wanted to talk about your journey. Kelsey, for anyone that was listening today and wants to learn more about how to work with you, right? They're listening, they're like, dang, I want to work with Kelsey. That sounds right up my alley. How would they go about finding you for coaching? And then what are some of your social handles too?
Yes. So everything across the board, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, it's all Kelsey Arneson Fitness. So first
Yep.
name, last name, fitness, super easy to find. And all of those in the bio that I have linked has all of our website and everything of how to
Sure.
get a hold of us. It's very easy to navigate.
Okay, cool. And for everybody listening too, I'll make sure I attach that in the podcast notes so you guys can go over and find Kelsey. So Kelsey, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to connecting with you in the future, and I wish you all the best this year in accomplishing all the goals that you laid out for yourself. I'm sure you will.
Likewise, Tyler. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelsey. Okay, hold on.